What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Today I will be going over 5 crucial tips for beginners in Dead by Daylight, specifically survivors. If you guys like the video, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. I do stream on Twitch 6 days a week. Feel free to go on over there, link down below in the description. Enjoy the video, guys. Number 1, perks. When you're first starting out in Dead by Daylight, you won't have any of the DLC content. So you're going to be limited with what survivors and perk builds you can choose from. And this is just assuming that you're starting off fresh and you get the game, you don't have any DLC content, so this is what you're going to have. You will start off by having access to Dwight, Meg, Claudette, Jake, Nia, Bill, and David. Right, there are a number of different perk builds that you can do just with the base survivors that are included with the game, but I believe that this is probably one of the better perk builds that you can have as a new survivor, at least in terms of having a bit of map awareness with Kindred, having a simple exhaustion perk that's easy to get the hang of with sprint bursts, being able to save your teammates with borrowed time, and having a backup with adrenaline. That's the whole point of this build. So the first one we're going to talk about is Kindred, and Kindred is really handy for map awareness and knowing when you should and shouldn't do a certain objective. So what it does is it unlocks potential in your aura reading abilities. So while you are on the hook, all survivors' auras are revealed to all other survivors. Everyone can see everybody on the map, see where they are, if they're on a generator or if they're going for the save. And that can be the difference between getting a generator done or getting a save when you need it. And while you're on the hook and the killer is within a 16-meter range of you, the killer's aura is revealed to other survivors as well. So if you have a camping killer, it will show the other survivors and they know to just stick on gens and not go in for the save, at least not right now until they leave. And it's also important to say that while another survivor is on the hook, all other survivor auras are only revealed to you because you're running the perk. And if the killer is within a 16-meter range of the hook survivor, the killer's aura is only revealed to you. So if it's anyone else other than you on the hook, only you can see it. Not everyone can. So Sprint Burst is a good exhaustion perk to start off with. It's pretty simple. I'm not a huge fan of this one because I think there are better ones, but as a beginner without any DLC content, I think this is a pretty handy one to just start off with at least. So when you start to run, you hold down shift and it will trigger. It's that easy. So when you start running, you will break into a sprint at 150% of your normal running speed for 3 seconds. And it will cause the exhausted status effect for 60, 50 or 40 seconds, depending on whether the perk is tier 1, tier 2 or tier 3. This is only tier 1. Otherwise it would be 40 seconds. Sprint burst cannot be used while exhausted, and you do not recover from exhausted status effect while you run. But it's important to note that a pretty handy tactic for sprint burst is to recover 99% of the way. And before you recover all the way, hold down shift, run around just with that 1% left on your exhausted status bar. And then as soon as you're in a chase or you need to trigger your sprint burst again, just hold up for just a second, let it recover the full way, and then you can trigger it again. That way you can actually run around a lot more rather than, seeing all the urban evading, crouching people with sprint bursts everywhere. Try and avoid that. This brings us to our next perk, which is pretty much a teammate perk, helping out the team. So after you unhook a survivor within the killer's terror radius, they gain the endurance status effect for 15 seconds. Basically, they get an immune hit. If they are hit within 15 seconds of getting off the hook, then they get a free hit. That's it. No damage will be taken. Any damage taken during that time that would put the unhooked survivor into the dying state will instead apply the deep wound status effect. So that means that you've got 20 seconds to get to safety to mend yourself. If you don't mend yourself while you're in the deep wound status effect, you will go down into a dying state. So it's important to get somewhere safe, mend up, and then continue to do your objectives. So this brings us to our last perk, our backup. This is called Adrenaline, and I love Adrenaline. I've run it on pretty much every build. It's so handy to have. And what it allows you to do is instantly heal 1 health state and sprint at 150% of your normal running speed for 5 seconds as soon as the exit gates are powered. And in order to get to that level, you need to do all 5 generators that are on the map. That will power up the exit gates, and then that will trigger your sprint burst. And it's important to note that Adrenaline is on hold if you are disabled at the moment that it takes effect. If you're on the shoulders of a killer about to go to a hook, or you're just getting placed on a hook and adrenaline triggers, as soon as you are taken off that hook, it will trigger and you will be able to use it. And same thing, if you're on the shoulders of a killer and you somehow manage to wiggle free, it will trigger and you can run away. And it's also important to note that adrenaline will wake you up if you're asleep. It's very handy against a Freddy. It ignores all other exhausted status effects as well. So if you're exhausted from running sprint bursts as well, it doesn't matter, it'll still trigger. And it causes the exhausted status effect for 40 seconds at tier 3. And you do not recover from the exhausted status effect while running either. In order to get these perks, you will need to level up Meg Thomas, level 35 and level 40, in order to get sprint bursts and adrenaline as well. In order to get borrowed time, you will need to level up Bill to level 35 to unlock that as a teachable perk as well. And Kindred will just pop up randomly in the blood web for everybody. You don't need to level anyone up for that. So just Bill and Meg, the only 2 survivors you need to level up. Number 2, teamwork. Teamwork in Dead by Daylight is absolutely crucial. You all need to work together to save one another, do generators, heal, and loop the killer. If you plan on being a selfish player, you really won't get far in the game, and you will more than likely cop some salt in the endgame chat lobbies. And please, for the love of God, don't kill yourself on the first hook or disconnect from the game if you verse a killer that you don't like. You only screw over your entire team doing that, and quite frankly, it's a bit of a dick move. The only way you're going to improve at Dead by Daylight is by playing against all killers and learning how to counter them, not by disconnecting and being a selfish twat. Number 3, objectives. The prime objective in Dead by Daylight as a survivor is completing all 5 generators around the map in order to power the exit gates so the team can escape. There are also other objectives that you can be doing in the game, like cleansing totems to counter hex perks, healing teammates, opening up the exit gates, or searching through chests for items that can help yourself and your team. Don't be that one person that we all know that hangs out in the corner of the map, urban evading and self-caring all over the place. That person is smelly, and no one likes them. Also, knowing when to do a certain objective is key. For instance, if a killer is patrolling a generator, wait until they leave the area and it's safe to get back on the generator. If a killer hooks a survivor, don't go running in there and unhook them right away in front of the killer. Usually it results in them getting hooked right away again, or you end up trading with them. Be smart about when you go for saves, and wait for the killer to leave the area unless you have absolutely no choice, or you are running borrowed time as a backup. Number 4, looping. Get used to looking behind you while in a chase so you can keep your eyes on the killer. If you look forward and lose sight of the killer, you risk being mind gamed and going down around a loop. Be careful of running into objects in front of you when you do this, or you can get stuck and get hit as a result. It's something you get better at with practice. Try to also focus on their red light as a bit of a guide to which direction you should be looping. If they're coming around corners you can't quite see behind, that can be a good little guideline. But be careful though, because a lot of killers tend to walk backwards or moonwalk in order to hide their light and mind game the survivors so they can get a hit. While you're in a chase, it's important that you don't immediately throw down a pallet. The longer you can loop around a pallet and distract the killer, the more likely your teammates can complete generators and get the objectives done. Only throw the pallet if you need to. Before relying on pallets, try to lose the killer by juking them around jungle gyms, being stealthy, or losing line of sight in hope that the killer stops chasing you and moves on. If those things don't work, loop the pallet as long as it's safe to do so before throwing it. It's also important to use an exhaustion perk to help you in a chase with a killer. In this example, we're using sprint bursts to gain some distance from the killer and increase our chances of finding a jungle gym or a pallet that we can loop safely. It's also important to note that looping requirements can change depending on the killer you are versing. This can be used as a general guide for most killers, but versing killers like the nurse, huntress, or the doctor will change how you go about throwing pallets. Number 5, prioritize. It's important to prioritize certain objectives over others, such as generators. For instance, if a teammate gets hooked for the first time and you almost have a generator complete, Finish that generator before going in for the hook save. They'll have 20 seconds or so before going into the second phase of struggling on the hook. So as long as you can get to them before the second phase begins, it can buy you time to complete a generator. On that subject, if you get hooked for the first time, don't try to free yourself from the hook. You only have a 4% chance of actually freeing yourself from the hook. Generally, it will just result in you dying even faster, so you're better off just waiting for your teammates to save you. It's also important to prioritize certain generators before others based on their map placement. You want to avoid doing any random generator that you see right away, because this can often lead to a 3-gen. A 3-gen is where the final 3 generators are close to each other on one side of the map. It makes it very difficult for survivors to complete and much easier for the killer to patrol. The best way to counter a 3-gen is to do generators that are based around the center of the map, and then you work your way around the outskirts. Make sure you have 3 generators left at different ends of the map in order to make it harder for the killer to patrol them. And that does it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Feel free to like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments down below what you think. What tips do you have for new players? I'll see you guys soon.